Welcome to the podcast Voices for Democracy, Sri Lanka's presidential election 2024. Through this podcast series, we will explore the upcoming presidential election in Sri Lanka, where the voters will choose the ninth executive president. And the main objective behind this podcast is to provide a clear and comprehensive understanding about the upcoming presidential election and also about its impact on Sri Lanka and beyond. And today, to start off the very first episode of Voices for Democracy podcast, we have Dr. Pradeep Peiris, Senior Lecturer of Department of Political Sciences and Public Policies of University of Colombo. Hello to you, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining as well. To start off the conversation, let's set the foundation right by explaining the background about the political environment in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I think we are sailing towards really important elections. I think since 1983, we had many presidential elections. I would say this is the most important and most serious election that Sri Lankans are facing. And this election in a way symbolizes the continuity of Sri Lankan politics in one way, but also this will also give us an opportunity to make very serious changes, shift from our political trajectory. So in that way, I mean, there is a continuation of certain kind of political culture, but also there will be a certain level of ruptures in the way that Sri Lankan politics will perform. So in that way, this is extremely important and serious election. Particularly, we are living in a post-2022 period.
True.
So this election will basically reflect what 2022 has basically caused. So this will be a kind of a barometer for us to understand to what degree that society has changed since 2022, because that was one of the biggest, biggest calamity in terms of economy. It's a kind of biggest revelation for men and women about kind of a country that we are in. So I really expect that the upcoming election will give us a sense about what do people think and what do how they want to really how they want to really change their path.
Yeah, that's true. I think this election this time around is a very important decision-making junction to all of us Sri Lankans. And talking about the election, we see very interesting campaigns going forward. I would like to ask you, how do you really assess these election campaigns of some of the major candidates?
So, I mean, of course, the 39 people have given nominations for this presidential election. Now, so far 30, now we will have 38 candidates contesting for this election now. Among them, you can see three main players. So it's a kind of a three-way fight. But even though it's a three-way fight, it's a two-cornered competition.
Yeah.
Because what you see is there's old elite classes was trying to somehow retain the old political culture, while there's another new group in PP. Now they're trying to represent the change in that political culture. So in a way that, on the one hand, it's a kind of a battle between the old politics versus new politics. But even though I say new politics, we have no idea about what that politics look like. But we know that that is going to be shift or some sort of rupture from the old political culture. So what we are seeing is that. So even if you look at the way the elections, the parties, the individuals are campaigning, you can also clearly see that there is a clear difference between these groups. So you see that the traditional elites who trying to so desperate to retain their grip on power. So they basically use the typical old tactics. The old tactics are not very much of a democratic, in theory. it's very much of a what we call in political science patron-client kind of a relationship, where they think that their contract with the voters are very much of a transactional type of the contract, where that's why they keep announcing what they're going to distribute, right? And with the expectation that based on that people will give them their loyalty, meaning the votes.
Votes, yeah.
So which means that they are not trying to mobilize electorate based on policies, on politics. It's rather in terms of material goods, material benefit, and keep harping on the fact that they can handle the country and they can turn around the economy. Now these are the very same people who are responsible for destroying the economy, destroying the country.
True, yes.
But the thing is, they have no shame to say that, because last 75 years it worked. I mean, at the election you lie, and people expect you to lie, and those lies work. Not only in Sri Lanka, everywhere. So as a result, they don't really pay attention to go to the voter, go to the citizen and ask their real issues, and try to provide them something that will make not only one group happy, but the entire country happy. So rather than what they're trying to do is they're trying to go and pick local level party workers who can really bring them votes. So what they are doing is their campaign is targeting not the people, not the voters. They're targeting only the local henchmen. So this is very serious problem as far as liberal democracy is concerned, because we discussed this conversation based on the assumption that we live in a democracy.
Yeah.
But we are not actually. But on the other hand, if you see that the other group, the new group seems to be going back to their old politics, in the sense they have basically mobilized their local party officers, party branches, a lot of people, a lot of campaigning. You can see that the leafleting. I have no relationship with this new group, but I'm pretty pleased with the fact that they have gone back to the basics. The leafleting, they're sharing information, and they're giving things rather than promising material benefits, trying to subcontract people to bring votes. No, not like that. So in that way, I'm happy that there is a certain kind of a glimpse of hope that there is a possibility of we will go back to correcting this our democratic trajectory, because democracy is the only rule we have in this world that has a capacity to self-reflect and self-correct. But what happened last 75 years, we failed to do that. Our democracy, again and again, it's shown us, it has no capacity to self-reflection, self-correction. But now, this is an election. That's why I said that there's a possibility of rupture from our political culture. So let's hope it will work.
Yeah. I think just like you said, there's a very big question on, considering most of them have released their manifestos already, there is a question on their thinking process behind, but also there is a little bit of hope on how things are also changing. And from the democratic point of view, from the people's point of view, you as a political analyst, how do you really gauge the pulse of people?
It's like this. You have to be very careful. By looking at the crowd, by looking at the current mood, you can't really predict what will happen on the 21st.
True.
Because I argue in my book and also in my work that the voter and the citizens are two different creatures. Now we, in between election, we live as a citizens. So when we live as a citizen, your rationality, your logic is very different, because then you consider all the options available, things like that and all the ideologies. But the moment when the government announced election, we slide into kind of particularly emotional, the environment, particularly kind of psychological space. There, the citizens slowly get converted to voter, because now your calculations are very different. It's very much akin to, remember, during 2022, we had long lines to get fuel.
Yeah.
When you're at the rear end of the line, you're very, very much like a citizen. You talk about all the nice things, good governance, social justice, all sort of things. But as you get closer to the pump, you completely forget about all what you preach there. Now you want to pay a little extra and get additional fuel. That's how the voters function. Because last 75 years we've been trained, we've been taught to like think in that way. Because this is the Christmas time. This is the time where people distribute. Now, for example, now the person who helps us at home, now she takes a lot of leaves these days. She doesn't come to work simply because she's busy collecting all the goodies. Because like she comes from a neighborhood where like MPs and all sort of politicians goes and really distribute. They distribute rice packets, gas cookers, the gas cylinders. So she is so busy collecting goodies because this is the Christmas time. So why we are doing that? Because we just want we want to like citizens to come to election as voters, not as citizens. So that's very dangerous in the way. What you see so far is you can clearly see that there's a huge wave towards the new direction, new politics. But up until the last minute, you don't know because the way that the media and people like us, teachers, the priests, temple, the way we all contribute, like constructing this particular psychology, that will really like the influence the way people think.
Yeah.
So like next 3 weeks going to be really crucial how things are going to go. But looking at the current situation, if you think that tomorrow morning the election starts, I think people are ready to completely like chuck all the old elites out of the system and looking for a new system. That's what I feel.
You literally answered my next question, where I was hoping to ask, what are your predictions for the election day and the voters' behavior? Since you already mentioned about the voters' behavior, which is ongoing.
My answer was on this assumption tomorrow is election.
Yeah.
But since it is going to be in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's what. Now my question is, now these 3 weeks' time, us as voters of Sri Lanka, what should our thinking process be?
I mean, we don't think actually. What will happen is now you can see already like in media, social media, various group, educators, they have all now in their full swing to like, influencing public opinion. So there are two ways where people make decisions. This voting get affected. One is like what happens from the center, which I would say that kind of the wave that comes from the center. So the parties or the candidates, they can trigger a huge wave of mobilization from the center. So then you get a push, right? No, you get a pull because there is a huge attraction factor. So the media, social media, various gimmicks by various parties, and a lot of TV channels, so you can suddenly have all sort of things to pull people towards direction of particular groups. So conspiracies, fear factors, ethnic tension, all these things will like support one candidate against the other. That's a pulling factor. The push factor is basically the local level elites, local level political leaders, the influencers. So they also can really like push you towards certain direction. So usually this pull and push works that way. Now, for example, 2018 election, where nobody thought that the SLPP will win the local government election, but you see that at the national level, TV station did their number, and there's a huge turnaround. Like you got a huge support for NPP, even not NPP, sorry, SLPP. Even they didn't expect that much of support, victory, right? But whereas in other election, while there is a pull from the national level mobilization, there's also local level push. But what I see in this current election, the pull and push both are now dominated by the new group, not the old ones. Because old ones have failed to introduce something new. So they failed in their branding so far. But 2 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go.
Yeah. A lot can happen, a lot can change.
Yep,
for sure.
Yep.
And finally, I would like to ask you regarding superpowers like China, India, US, and Western countries. How do you think they view the election result for this island nation?
No, they don't just view. I mean, they are the ones who make someone become the head. So basically, in Sri Lankan democracy, or like democracies of most of the third world, people vote, but superpowers decide. So if whoever going to be the next president, unless that person get the okay or the blessing from the superpowers, that is not a possibility. So that's why you can see that all the like main candidates have canvassed all the embassies. At least embassies has canvassed them. So in a way, at the moment, I feel like three main candidates, Andhra Kumar Dissanayake, Sajith Premadasa and Ranil Wickremesinghe, they have made it clear that nothing going to change. The status quo will remain. So they basically given some sort of assurance to all the international communities. That has in doing that. So basically, they address some of their concerns. But usually, in next 10 years to come, this region going to be the most violent or most volatile region. Whatever happens in Ukraine, whatever happens in Gaza, they are not the real conflict. They are also a conflict, but the real conflict will happen in the South China Sea. So because this is the turning point of one superpower over another one or maybe another two. So there will be definitely things. So in that way, the Sri Lanka's state positions about the international community extremely vital. So you can't antagonize West. You can't antagonize the East. You can't antagonize our most closest regional power. Now it's almost a superpower, the India. So without having okay from them, you can't do anything. So that's why I said at the beginning, there will be some ruptures, very, very welcoming ruptures, but also there will be a lot of continuity. So even though I speak very fondly and very, 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 positively towards the change and maybe new group to come and really, take the power of the country. But I don't see even under their leadership, a lot of things going to change. So we will continue with this current economic system. We will continue with the current, the way that we are going to solve the crisis. We will also continue with most of the things that we've been doing. But at least I hope if we manage to have a new group elected, the center of gravity of Sri Lankan politics will shift from the corruption to more of a good governance. So that is all what I expect, what I think is possible with this election. Whoever going to win, going to have a difficult time. This is not an election that where you will really look forward to, because there are a lot of mess here. So
to be cleared off.
Yeah, if you come and take the mess, so you have to handle it.
Thank you very much for the thought-provoking discussion. I think change is what we all look for. We're talking about the Sri Lankan presidential election. A lot to talk about and a lot to think about for the next 2.5 weeks, as it's just in front of our eyes. So we're going to try our best to help you, to provide you with a clear and comprehensive understanding on the upcoming election. So thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep Peiris, for being the first voice of the first episode for Voices for Democracy. Thank you for joining with us.
Thank you so much.
And to everyone who watched us, thank you very much. So we're going to try our best to help you, like I said, to provide with a clear and comprehensive understanding on the Sri Lanka's presidential election 2024, where all of us, the voters, will choose the 9th executive president. See you soon with another episode for Voices for Democracy.